Welcome to the At the Coalface podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. This podcast is all about what it's really like in the trenches of digital and e-commerce. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the At the Coalface podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host. And it's my pleasure to welcome Mike Christie and Eric Kades from TextChat to the podcast. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us, Jason. We're excited to be here.
Thanks, Jason.
You're very welcome. It's awesome to have you gentlemen here. Now, Mike, obviously you and I have been connected on LinkedIn for quite some time. We've had quite a few interactions there, which is great. Always love interacting with people on LinkedIn, and you know, it's always good to have a good group of people that are engaged and are willing to, you know, not only put out content of their own, but engage on other people's content. And I really always appreciate your input and always appreciate your thoughts there. So thanks for hooking this up. And then we've got Eric, who's the founder of TextChat, on as well.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Love your content, love the podcast, and it's really an honor to be on with you.
Now, I'm very familiar with lots of other, I guess, chat platforms and help desk technology platforms which include live chat. You know, I've worked with probably, 10 different live chat platforms and help desk platforms that sometimes include live chat. So what, I guess maybe this is initially directed at Eric, and then Mike, feel free to jump in. What makes TextChat different?
What makes it different, Jason, is the way that we notify you that someone wants to chat on your website. We actually send a text message that says, hey, you have someone who wants to chat on your website. You don't have to be sitting in front of your computer. I was at my son's soccer practice yesterday and was talking to one of the fathers, and a text chat came in from the website and I happened to answer it first. And I was sitting there and I told the father, hold on 1 second, I got to answer someone on my website. And as simple as getting a text message, I was able to respond in real time to someone on my website.
Now, when you respond, do you also respond via the text message and then it's routed through your servers back through the chat client to the customer, or do you log in at that point to the actual chat client on your phone and respond that way?
It's a great question. And initially, this was really built out of our own need. And, a little background on me, I've been in the contact center business for 20 plus years. We answer live chat 24/7 for dozens and dozens of clients in the US on, their websites and across many different verticals, from higher education to e-commerce. And we had a problem, which was when we would put one of our agents who was answering for one of our clients, and I'm going to get to the answer to your question, like, do you actually respond with SMS? Because that's how we first built it, but then we changed it, and I'll tell you why. But we had this problem where we would have prospects come to our website, our jetspring.com website, and inevitably, a really high value client would come on. We're a B2B business with a really tough question. And my agent, who wasn't as knowledgeable as one of our top salespeople, would say, it's a great question. Let me get your name and number and someone will get back to you. And we'd end up losing that client. And that could be a $500,000 a year client. So for the better part of a decade, we were a live chat company that didn't have live chat on our own website because we didn't want to potentially lose those opportunities. I had this crazy idea in the middle of the night one time. What if we could answer a live chat with a text message and just respond via text, yet the person's chatting on their website? And we built it and it worked great. And it was a game changer for us. We started answering our live chats, but we found out that it had an inherent problem, which was when you would have multiple conversations going on at once, you then had to, use unique identifiers. We came up with a dozen different ways to try and make it convenient to use for the business owner, but it really never worked. And one day we said, you know what, let's just put a link in the text message that takes you into the chat client, and then you converse that way through a secure chat client like you had mentioned. So that's the long answer to your short question.
That makes complete sense. That was going to be my next technical question. So I guess you answered it preemptively, which is great, which is, obviously if you've got 5 or 6 chats coming in at once via text message and you are responding via text, how do you differentiate those threads without them coming in on a unique number or a unique code or some sort of unique identifier that's going to allow you to manage those threads independently via chat or independently via SMS. So that makes sense that you would have to come up with a way to link effectively text notification service through to a app that then manages the threads via the link, which can have a unique identifier because it's just a URL link. And so it can have the variable for that particular chat in the link, and then you click through and it takes you through to the chat application, which then recognizes the URL variable, and then away you go, you directly into the chat, I suppose.
That's exactly right. And interestingly enough, so when we had this problem where we couldn't answer our live chats with our sales team, because we're, like I said, it could be a $500,000 sale, I went to all of the other live chat providers and said, look, we need a solution for this. We weren't in the software business at the time. And they all had apps, mobile apps. So we were like, great, give us the mobile app. Next thing you know, another one of my prospects comes on, and I'm on the phone, not getting the mobile app notification. And Jeff is getting in his car and just missing it. And Mike is doing something else. And we're losing another client. 15 minutes later, I'm getting an email. Someone who was looking how efficiently we answer was like, we're not hiring you guys. You don't even answer your own chat. And I shut it down again before we invented TextChat. But the thought was, if we could shotgun out the text messages to multiple people on the sales team, someone's going to see a text message. And that theory was correct. And, now we answer them on time, like I said, from anywhere.
Brilliant. Now, Mike, how did you become involved with TextChat? How did that originate?
I was actually hired by Eric about a year and a half ago because I worked as a digital marketing consultant. I'm a certified direct response copywriter, and worked as a consultant to help e-commerce stores increase their conversions. And so Eric hired me originally to work on his different brands. And when I took the platform, both TextChat and also JetSpring, which is our live agents, I was seeing conversions in the 5x area as far as sales are concerned. So, clients that would go and put either TextChat on their website, or they would, put a live agent on their website who could answer questions in real time rather than through a contact form and, someone will get back to you and they don't get back to them. What we saw was that conversions immediately increased by 5x. And if not more. So being in the conversion business myself for e-commerce, I was like blown away by the performance of putting a real live person on the website to answer questions in real time. For example, if you're selling stand-up paddle boards, for example, and somebody comes on and they're looking at your paddle boards and they're saying, well, gee, I wonder how big the package is, that when the paddle board's all, folded up, there's nothing on here that says that. They get on through TextChat and they're talking to somebody in the company and they says, oh, it's basically fits in a backpack. It'll go easily into the trunk of your car. Boom, they sell an $850 stand-up paddleboard right there. If there wasn't somebody there to answer that question, Jason, they're gone and they're never coming back. So what I was able to do was I started to recommend putting, either live chat agents or TextChat, depending on the size of the client. And immediately we saw a dramatic increase in sales conversions. But the other thing that happened over time was their online reviews started to get better simply because they were being serviced. When they had a question about sales, they got an answer. But more importantly, when they got a question about customer support, like, where's my order? Hey, this thing arrived damaged. What do I do? How do I send it back? They were able to get, information in real time that allowed them to A, solve their problem, and B, feel good about, the brand. But the other thing about live support with TextChat, especially, which I don't think a lot of people know who don't use it, is the fact that, yes, sales chats will convert at about 83%. But support chats will convert at about 50%. What I mean by that is, the business owner knows that when he's chatting with somebody and he basically gives them the answer to their question and they're happy, that's the perfect time to send them back to the website to buy something else. So he or she might be able to provide them with a unique coupon code to go back to the store and buy something right at that point in time, which they do. And what we do with our with our agents at JetSpring is the same thing. Is when they have a support call, they'll go ahead and send them back to the website to try to get another sales conversion, from that. So, I decided that I told Eric, I said, I want to sell this. Because I've never seen anything convert like this for e-commerce. I want to be, kind of part of the team to give it the experience exposure that it needs to, in the e-commerce vertical to help these store owners out because they're all working to sell more.
Absolutely. Live chat for sure is absolutely one of the, I guess, core tenets that I preach about in e-commerce full stop in terms of customer service channels. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Now, Eric, from a technical perspective, your typical live chat platform, what I've seen is that, most e-commerce businesses that are reasonably successful will have a customer service team that will handle, email help desk, social DM via their live chat service, including live chat, phone calls, etc. So they're kind of an all-in-one hub for customer service, and they're taking all sorts of modes of communication that they're taking in terms of inbound, and then they're responding to that as and when they become available, and they're picking those up along the way. Now, with your service, because you are a text-based SMS notification service, those are very regionalized in terms of the countries in which they work, etc. Whereas when you've got a dedicated live chat platform that isn't run via text notification, there is no SMS component. So do you operate only in North America, or do you operate internationally, and can you send SMSs internationally? Talk to me about the internationalization of the platform and how that works.
Sure. The thought is right now we are just North America, but the thought is we integrate WhatsApp for the notifications. I think that's going to give us the furthest reach, seems to be the most widely accepted third-party app, but of course it was down today, so that wouldn't have been very good for business. I think that's the first step. As we look to move into countries like India, where we're seeing some demand for our product, what we're hearing with boots on the ground is that'll solve the problem.
And does the platform also, from a chat perspective, can it receive inbound chats via Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Insta DM, etc., or is it a pure chat client-based system?
Right now, it's pure chat client-based, but we already have in beta Facebook Messenger integration where you get the SMS notification. Really, the integrations are not the hardest part for us. It's actually interesting. I like to kind of segue the conversation a bit, Jason, if you don't mind, in that live chat is broken and text chat doesn't even solve it fully. So we're about to release a text chat 2.0 that we think solves that problem. And what I mean by live chat is broken, we had researchers go to 5,000 Shopify websites and start a live chat, and over 70% of them did not answer it. And even a higher percentage, well, not a higher percentage, but a high percentage of them would say, we'll get back to you in 72 hours. We'll get back to you in 48 hours. And that's what I mean by live chat is broken, because it is really a broken promise in that you're seeing it used in all these different forms across all these different websites, but very seldomly do people actually answer it. Obviously, that does a lot of damage to a brand. If you tell someone, here, come down this chatbot flow, give me all these bits of information, I'm going to get you to a live person, and then boom, we're going to get back to you in 72 hours. I don't know about you, but I'm never going back to that store because they kind of led me to this false promise that I was going to speak with a live agent. So what we've been working on, more importantly than these other channels, is how do we make live chat still valuable if the person doesn't answer it right away? And we do believe that we've solved that problem. That's in beta as well right now. But, back to your question about the different channels, we'll add them all. But again, I really want to stay focused in on live chat, knowing that it's, for my clients, their number one converting lead and conversion source and retention source and customer review source, the ones that outsource it to us for 24/7. How do we make it work for the small business person that isn't going to get them every time? And frankly, human behavior, I've learned through this evolution of text chat, human behavior, the way we message today, even though as a business owner, it's like, I'm getting this when my son's at school and I want to, respond immediately. The way we message today is really not immediate. When you get a text message or a WhatsApp message, you respond immediately if you want to, or you respond 5 minutes later or 15 minutes later or tomorrow. How do we kind of bridge that gap of making live chat still is valuable and keeping that visitor on the website and capturing them on their website, yet satisfy both the visitor in terms of maybe they didn't get their answer right away, but they're not being brought down some funnel and then being told we're going to get back to you in 72 hours. And at the same time, help it be more convenient for the smaller business owner. They don't have to answer immediately, but yet they still get that customer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, what I advise clients that have a dedicated customer service team, now this is obviously starting to get into medium-sized businesses and enterprises and larger, not sort of one-man band type of e-commerce sites, of which obviously on Shopify there are probably millions
Yeah.
of they've only got 1.7 million sites running Shopify, but of those there's probably tens of thousands of one-man woman shops that are running a boutique business. And so for those businesses, I can completely understand why TextChat is such a good fit. For medium and larger enterprises with their live chat platform of choice, doesn't really matter what it is. What I recommend to them, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this approach, because I don't ever want my merchants that I work with to create the type of experience that you've just alluded to, which is to have the widget live and active on the website, but no one actually there to take the call or no one there to take the chat, and then have this pathway where once they actually open up the chat window, best case scenario, it says we're not online right now, leave a message and we'll get back to you ASAP. And then that happens in 12, 24, 36 hours or whatever the case may be. But more importantly, I advise them with most chat platforms, there is the ability to set business hours and then have the chat widget completely disappear outside those business hours. And that's my advice. My advice is put the hour, just like you put the phone hours on your website that you're available, put the live chat hours on your website in the footer, call it out really honestly, really transparently, and say, hey, we're available 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. New Zealand time, for example. And so is our live chat available during that exact same period of time for phone, live chat, email, etc. And then simply set the live chat widget to completely disappear when you are not available in live chat, because I couldn't agree more. There's nothing sort of more frustrating than opening up a live chat widget thinking, oh, that's great, they must be online because the live chat's available, and then typing in a message and then getting an immediate message back, hey, we're offline, we'll get back to you within 24 hours, please give us your email address. That's not the experience I was expecting when I click on the widget, right? And so that's my advice to businesses that have a dedicated service team and dedicated business hours for live chat and phone and email. Be very transparent about that fact. Now, obviously, in your case, it feels very much like your platform is catering more towards smaller organizations that are sort of almost available 24/7, or they don't have set hours to respond, and so therefore they want to have that chat available on their site almost all the time or all the time, and they want to be able to be contacted via a means outside of sitting and living within the live chat platform, that they've got a message that they need to respond to. Or you also cater to the higher end of the market, whereby there's a sales team behind the scenes where this isn't necessarily an e-commerce environment. This is more of a dynamic, maybe it's a software sales environment, or maybe it's a full-blown machinery, hardware, B2B sales environment, where you've got a team of salespeople where when they get a live chat, this has to be a consultative sales call. And so therefore it has to do routing to multiple salespeople, perhaps even globally at one time, whereby when they respond, it opens up a full-blown dialogue. Am I understanding your sort of target market well? Bottom end of the market, very top end of the market. In the middle of the market, a brand is probably going to go with a different live chat platform that is catering for a live chat dedicated help center.
100%. I mean, when we first started, and I had been answering phones, like I said, for a couple of decades. When we first started doing live chat 10 years ago, I would say to every prospective client, don't have it up there if you're not going to answer it, because you're hurting your brand and you're doing damage in the competitive environment that we are in, that customer may never come back. So I agree with everything that you said. And yeah, TextChat really was developed to give the power of immediate response to the smaller store or the higher end B2B sale.
What has COVID done to your business? Because what we're seeing, at least down in ANZ, is an absolute explosion, particularly in the B2B e-commerce space. And these businesses oftentimes haven't historically had live chat on their websites, or they maybe even never had a website before. And they're realizing now, oh my God, okay, we're going online for the first time. We're dramatically improving the customer service around our e-commerce website because that's becoming a primary route to market. So we have to get our game on when it comes to live chat. So we have to have very advanced tooling and something that's really going to work for our salespeople. Have you seen demand explode, and particularly amongst the B2B space?
Yeah, in fact, we launched TextChat during COVID. Like I said, I've been doing live chat for decades, but we launched TextChat during COVID somewhat in response to it, in that I gave it, there's a small town near here that had a lot of brick and mortar stores that didn't have online e-commerce presences. And I called the Chamber of Commerce in that town and said, look, I want to give this to all your customers. And, I have story after story of how we saved some of those businesses as a result of it. And then on the B2B e-commerce side, I'll give you an example. And this is kind of an interesting story about your part of the world, but we have a client, AirSled, who's been a customer since we launched it. They sell this really kind of cool forklift, but it's based on air and you don't actually need a machine. Like, you wear this thing and, you see it on TV, and I mean, you see a video of it and you almost can't believe that it's real. Like, what an ingenious invention. Well, they got a text chat on a Sunday night from a guy in Australia who wanted really to find out, this during COVID, about shipping. Had a lot of concerns about the expense of shipping this item to Australia, and they resolved all those issues. This guy buys it, and then he goes on his Instagram and puts it up. And, this revolutionary new way to move a washer and dryer or a refrigerator. And they had such response to that Instagram that they now have a division in Australia. And that all started with a live chat at 10:30 at night on a Sunday.
It happens. This is a pretty common theme in story, particularly amongst, because I used to own my own e-commerce pure play myself. And that's kind of how I got into the e-commerce game. And I worked agency side initially too, but I've been doing this over 20 years as well. And one of the things that differentiated my pure play was that myself and my co-founder of the business ran all customer service. And we were effectively a two-man band. And we were answering emails and phone calls and chats at pretty much nearly 24/7. People would call our free phone 0800 number down here in New Zealand, and we'd pick up at 10 o'clock at night. They were expecting just to leave a phone message, and 99% of the time that would convert into a sale if we could answer their question right there on the spot. So definitely, I fully appreciate and respect and understand the power of virtually 24/7 customer support. That's hard for businesses to execute on without, a dedicated rolling 24-hour team. So I understand how you bridge that gap for those smaller businesses. Now, are you also looking at rolling in to your platform the ability for a customer to SMS via a phone number the business, which would then route that into your platform, notify them via SMS, they would log into your chat platform and then respond, and then that unique code would respond via the chat software back to the text message phone number of the customer that originally sent the SMS. That feels like a bit of a next evolution or a natural evolution of the platform for people that may want to text you directly to a text phone number.
Absolutely. Adding SMS on the front end or WhatsApp in on the front end, and, still getting this notification to get into the platform. Definitely, part of our roadmap. I alluded, I can't share it with you 100% yet, but we have this hybrid, like I said, which I think is going to really, change the game a bit in making it so you don't have to respond immediately, but you still keep the person engaged on your website and capture that lead through a notification to the person when you've actually responded. Yeah, adding SMS on the front end, adding WhatsApp on the front end or Facebook Messenger on the front end. Those are all part of the long-term roadmap. But I'm really honed in on, because of the immediate nature of live chat. And the one thing about SMS is, and I'm a huge fan, been doing SMS for 20 years. All of a sudden, it's the hot new thing in e-commerce. as you know, it's been around forever. But when you're just asking an initial question, you may not want to go that extra mile and give your phone number. Yeah, I'll give my phone number to text me with sales, maybe 1, 2, 3 brands, but I am not overloading my phone with people that are going to market to me via text message. It's kind of like the last private place I have. So for me, I mean, 100%. All these channels are important and you should have them all. Like for our contact center clients at JetSpring, we answer SMS, we answer social media for them, we answer their live chat for them, all in one interface. Again, that, as you know, that immediate kind of live chat notification that is, or live chat conversation that is somewhat anonymous is so valuable to solve that website visitor's question or problem at that moment when they're on your website. Because if they're on your website, they're either in about to buy mode or buying mode. And so when you're able to kind of engage them and get that answer and not have them go to someone else, I really, want to stay right now for the moment honed in on figuring out this live chat problem for the 70% of smaller businesses that don't answer it.
Yeah, no, I think I'm fully on board with that. I don't think, at least for me, and I think from my audience, I'd like to, I can't speak on behalf of all of them, but again, speaking for myself, I don't need convincing of the power of live chat because I've seen it. And more importantly, even in dedicated customer service environments whereby an agent is potentially taking emails, phone calls, and live chats, the power of live chat lies in the ability to be running multiple streams of conversation. A single individual to be running multiple streams of conversation at one time, being able to use canned responses where it's appropriate, i.e., where do I find your shipping information? Okay, here's the canned response with the hyperlink to our shipping information page. That makes complete sense. So I don't think, at least for me, I don't need to be convinced of the power of live chat. I guess what you're trying to say is we now need to make live chat more accessible to the lower end of the market, the higher end of the market, and catering to those unique requirements of those use cases via a platform that is not just a dedicated live chat platform, but it is creating these multiple routes of notification to the operators so that fewer live chats slip through the cracks, I guess is what you're saying.
Absolutely. That's where I feel like, it's kind of broken. That's what we're trying to solve. Again, I think we've solved that. And here's actually, let me take a step back. Why it's so important to me is if I can continue that conversation on my website as an e-commerce business, as opposed to in a Facebook Messenger or in an SMS conversation, or even a follow-up email. The fact that I'm having that conversation on my website, almost like a Facebook Messenger within my own website. So maybe we're not chatting at the exact, in real time, but we're still having the conversation on the website. I think there's a lot of, gold there that hasn't been mined that can open this up to the world, because that's where you want them to be. If you send someone, yeah, we have shorts on sale and they're 15% off in an email, well, I might get that email response, but I might not go back to your website. But if I can respond to you and have you back on my website, to me, I think that's really the broken thing with live chat that we need to solve. So I hate to keep jumping around your questions of these other channels, because I'm with you and we do that for our other clients. But I think this is just too important not to stay honed in on, to make it available to everyone, as opposed to just the medium size and the larger businesses that can have their own in-house support team.
Totally on board with that. Now, some live chat platforms offer the ability for the agent in real time to know what's happening on the client side. So they for example, will surface, okay, if it's an e-commerce website, they will show what products the customer may have in their cart or their wish list or their add to compare list. It will show what page, what URL they're on at that point in time, or what URLs they have open at that particular point in time with the chat tab active. It will provide a bit of almost real-time feedback to the agent so that they understand what's going on from the customer side without having to ask the customer, oh, what page are you on? What products are you looking at? What products do you what products are you interested in buying today? They can preempt some of those questions by understanding from the customer side what they're actually doing right then in that moment and what they might be interested in. Is that something your platform does, or you're looking to expand it so it will do in the future?
Right now, we'll show you the page that the person's on. So you'll know in a not as granular perspective as maybe some other platforms, but you will know the page that they're chatting to you from.
And because you're targeting, especially from what Mike has said, there's a growing emphasis on e-commerce businesses as opposed to these larger B2B enterprise type software sales or hardware sales businesses. Is that something that you're looking to expand, and what does the analytics layer of your software look like?
Yeah, on TextChat, the analytics are somewhat limited. You can see how many chats you've had during the day. You get an email transcript of every conversation that you have when it happens. We have a lot of customization to it that's really easy, so you can brand it, but that's a little bit getting away from analytics. It's really basic information. You can see how many conversations were started, and then how many were transferred, and then how many actual had conversations. So you can see if you're missing them. And that's pretty much the extent of it.
Fair enough. Well, look, it sounds like you're solving a bit of a unique problem in the market versus other platforms that I've worked with and had exposure to. So, look, it seems like you guys have really absolutely found your niche in the space, and that's really important. I think a lot of times e-commerce tooling tends to be throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink, and that can be overwhelming, particularly for smaller business owners and businesses that really want a very specific tool for the job, and they don't necessarily want the Swiss Army knife of tools, in this case Swiss Army knife of live chat tools. They want something that's really specific to their needs, and it feels like you've really niched down hard, and that's not necessarily a negative. It's not a negative that you're so niche that you don't have these 50 functionalities of some of these live chat platforms that are available in the market, because you're not going after the same ICP or ideal customer profile of those other platforms. And so you've identified a very specific need. You're going after that very specific need. And I think this is a lesson that many, many merchants could learn, which is, hey, being a niche business is not a negative. It can be an extreme positive. And as I've niche down my own consulting business, and some people say, well, why don't you take on these types of clients and these types of clients? And I probably say no more often than I say yes to clients, to be perfectly honest, because I operate best in a very specific niche with a stack of skills that I know I can bring a tremendous amount of value to those customers. And that's not going to work for every customer. And so I have to be really transparent and honest about that in the market, so that it's very clear where I'm aligned with a specific target customer. And it sounds very much like you've done the same thing. You've niched down. Mike, maybe you can speak to this, because obviously you're on the sort of sales side of the business. It's a very specific niche that you guys are going after, and very specific problems that you're looking to solve. And you're not trying to be all things to all people.
Jason, that's a really good point. And I see this in the digital marketing world right now, where most of the platforms that the e-commerce store, and I'm not talking just small e-commerce, I'm talking about small and mid-size, there's too much horsepower. There's too many options, too many things, too much analytics, too much to evaluate. It confuses the people who are responsible for running it. They don't use nearly all of the features that these platforms have. I always kid around about Salesforce. When I first started using it, it was the most expensive Rolodex I ever had. I never was able to use all the things that Salesforce offered, because I never seemed to have the time to learn all that stuff. So I think with the small e-commerce business owner on Shopify, for example, of which there are tens of thousands, they just want to sell more product when people land on their website. And so the analytic is, did you answer the chat? Were you able to answer their question? And did they buy? That's really all you need to know, as far as, what the small business owner online is doing. The rest of it, I think, is helpful down the road when you become a massive, e-commerce operation. But for what TextChat really focuses on, it's really just answering questions, solving problems in real time, making customers really, really happy with your brand, and converting on sales. That's really the kind of the metric that we focus on with that.
Totally agree. Paralysis by analysis is a thing. So, that totally makes sense. And so, look, guys, I really appreciate you spending the time with me today. Now, I know you guys are at textchat.com. So I guess that if anybody outside of ANZ, so someone in North America, we have a very large percentage of our audience is North America, United States in particular. And so if someone wants to get a hold of you, if someone wants to find out more about the software, how it works, how they can get in touch with you, pricing, it's all on textchat.com, the website. And I see it all there. You've got a whole ton of resources and FAQs on the website as well, and even a demo of a demo video of the product right on the website. So is that really the best way for people to get a hold of you, or should people reach out to you guys directly? How are people best to get a hold of you guys?
Well, if they go to the website, you're going to see the little chat icon. You're going to see some faces in that chat icon. Just click on it.
Well, they're going to see exactly how your product works because you're eating your own dog food, right?
That's it. You will see exactly how it works when you click.
I answered a text chat before some of the other sales team while I was doing this podcast.
And that's the power of TextChat. So awesome, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for your time. I appreciate you sharing your insights and your experience with live chat, and particularly live chat for smaller businesses that are trying to improve the chat experience for their customers. And really appreciate your insights, guys, and look forward to chatting to you again sometime soon.
Thanks so much, Jason.
Thanks for listening to the At the Coalface podcast. If you want more At the Coalface, you can subscribe to our premium e-commerce and digital newsletter, At the Coalface Digest.